Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next The Promised Neverland anime review. This one's going to be for Season 2, Episode 9. And again, this is another kind of mixed episode where in some ways this is probably one of the worst and the most egregious offender this season with regards to the problems that Season 2 has had. But like a lot of the recent episodes, it still features some good scenes that actually hit some nice points and have emotions to them. It's just the legs sort of are cut out from underneath everything because you haven't given the chance for anything to breathe, kind of bed in, and then eventual turns down the line actually have impact. I've seen nothing but criticism from, I think, manga fans and anime only people with regards to this episode, referring to how quickly Norman has switched sides again. And I can do nothing but be in full agreement with it, because it's insane how quickly they did this. That they basically they accelerated to get to Norman's return into the series. And then it's meant to be this big surprise that, hey, Norman actually is on the fundamental different side to Emma. How is Emma going to deal with this? They're going their separate ways. They have different ideologies and viewpoints on the demons. And they really didn't do it all that well, because Norman's was already having doubts at the end of last episode. He'd only just activated his plan. And already huge doubts. You know exactly the direction that they're going in. And then you have Emma come in, an underdeveloped anime Emma who hasn't been through all of the stuff that she's been through in the manga. She's the one who comes in and is just her usual idealistic, optimistic self. And she gets through to Norman and convinces him to turn sides. And again, this is what happens in the manga. It's just that in the manga, there's a much larger gap of time between Norman's introduction, his reveal as the villain, and even the execution of the plan takes place over a large amount of chapters. So by the time you eventually get to, Emma's been to the Seven Walls, made the deal with the One, the promise, she comes back into things. She doesn't return with Sanju and Mujika, because that's Don and Gilda's mission. Instead, she returns right in the middle of the big fight with the Queen, when it looks like Norman's about to really take everyone out. And that's when we get the big confrontation. And it's built up to, you are waiting for the moment where, what is Emma going to say to Norman to finally snap him out of this? Because it is a case of finally. It is not a case of finally here. Because we barely know Norman the villain. Norman the person who hates demons so much he wants to kill them all. And like I said, we've only just been reintroduced to Norman. We've only just seen the start of his plan, and he's already basically turned around again, and as of this episode, he has turned around again. And not only that, but he's managed to turn his group, the Lambdas, around as well. And I don't really have a problem with this, because I like the idea that they are loyal to Norman above all else, and so Norman not wanting to go ahead with the eradication of demons is something that they are all behind. They have decided to go down a little bit of a different road by having Vincent apparently betray them for some reason. Now, don't ask me to explain what on earth Vincent's motivations are, what he's attempting to accomplish here, because I do not get it. The reasoning behind why he would go against Norman would be to try and, I guess, accomplish what their original plan was, which was to kill all demons. How is he going to accomplish that by betraying them to the farms? To me, that is just Vincent has switched sides completely because Norman switched sides. And it's does that make any sense? So I'm half thinking this is probably some sort of a fake out type thing of this is Vincent maybe putting an extra layer on whatever plan is about to be executed, and they'll think they have someone on the inside when they potentially don't. But I'm a little bit worried about that, because isn't that the role Isabella's meant to fulfill? But I don't have any confidence that they're going to do the Isabella thing when they get to it, because again, there's only 2 episodes left. And there's time to do the Isabella turn, and I think they should, because I think it's essential to her character, and I would much rather the character have the depth of ultimately caring for the kids she raised rather than just going down the villainous road for no reason. But will they have the time to do the development that she did actually get in the manga? And this was one of the better done character arcs, I think, in the final stages of the manga. Getting the backstory initially of her becoming a grandma and seemingly devoting herself to Peter Rattray and continuing to be the villainous character. But then the extra layers on top of things where they added in her motivation behind why she wouldn't want to do that and would instead support the kids going forward. That's really, really good. Do they have the time to do it? I'm not sure. The same goes for like Peter Rattray's backstory. Do they have the time to go into that, to make him into any sort of a villain? Because who are the Rattray clan? Like, we don't know. They've been so vague about so many major world building points here that I really don't know what they're going to do. It's felt like really a lot of the William and Irva stuff has been dropped. The significance behind, I suppose, just, wait, why aren't there humans in control of things on the demon side of the world with the farms? Like, what's going on here? What's the significance of the Rattray clan? You need to go into that backstory. I'm shocked that they just have completely avoided the backstory of the promise with the like ancient Rattray clan and the ancestors of all of the cattle children and so on. That's baffling to me. But what's even more baffling to me is what they did with Vilk. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he's basically this new character who's meant to represent all of the sages, I suppose, who we had in the manga. But obviously he's introduced at a different point. They, at least with him, gave enough of an explanation that it explained away why he hasn't just cured everyone around him with his blood, because it is evil blood. But here's the case of just the big, to me, arguably one of the biggest examples of why does the anime persist with the idea of telling us everything and showing us nothing. When he was going through this like kind of brief backstory, this was the perfect time to just cut over to Sanju and Mujika and explain their backstory. Show us the actual persecution. Go into the details surrounding the nobility not wanting their control over the people through food to be meaningless because of Mujika's blood. And so they have everyone who has Mujika's blood killed. And that's the explanation behind why Vilk wants to protect everyone. Giving this reverse explanation where you basically just explain the ending of Sanju and Mujika's story without actually the start of it, the bit that includes them, it just takes away so much impact that Sanju and Mujika actually have, given that they actually do have an impact in this episode coming in to cure everyone. But I think it's really undercut, and they're almost placing too much significance on Vilk here, by having him be the one to explain most of this stuff, and Sanju and Mujika, the two most interesting demon characters in the show, are just there, handing their blood out, not saying anything of note in particular. And this gets into, again, another problem, which is that why have they completely ignored giving any sort of depth to demon nobility? This is a fundamental world-building thing in The Promised Neverland that they've only mentioned like in an offhanded statement from Ray an episode or two ago. I'm absolutely shocked that they've made no effort whatsoever to really hit home that the nobility is the problem, the whole they control the food, that's why everything... You get that, but they should be hitting this point harder, and why Norman targeting this town is just pure violence versus him actually, he should be targeting the capital. And in the manga, he does target the capital, so he's actually, yes, he's attacking everyone in the manga, but at least he is hitting the kind of the demons who sort of do deserve it. And so there's a little bit more nuance to the Emma kind of Norman dynamic in the manga, because Norman is solving the same problem, but he's also doing much more than that. And Emma can't be so idealistic because she herself doesn't have a solution necessarily to deal with like the queen, the most powerful demons. But they're not covering that at all, like to the point where Sanju just, I guess, is just the most powerful demon that we know, because who is it? Iverk is the demon that we see here when we get the Isabella scenes, who I guess they're just getting across as the guy who's in charge of the farms from a demon perspective. And that's all you get. So I'm guessing he'll be killed at some point in the next 2 episodes to show that we have killed the guy responsible for everything. But we haven't hit any of the important points. Like, this is where the lack of Luvis, the other nobles, the queen especially, the royal family. Like, are they even going to reveal what they reveal about Sanju in the manga? In the anime here, I don't think so. And then let's get into the Vilk thing and the backstory with the human. What were they doing here? This is probably one of the worst examples I've seen in terms of a scene being added in to assist an adaptation, where it literally just exists to, this is the only way we can possibly connect this arc to the next arc without actually covering the gap between the arcs. And it's just, I met a human 15 years ago, he was dying, I ate him, but I took the pen thing he was carrying. They put the cap on the pen. It has all of the information that they need to directly react to the radio information that they just got, that Phil and everyone else is being shipped out, and they have the cure for the lambda disease, which apparently was found 15 years ago and solves a problem that they're still dealing with 15 years later. What? Has the map to the farm, which is fine. They talk about the guard positions, even though it's like 15 years out of date. It's such a contrivance, and what they're potentially making you think that this is just feels very weird. Because again, the anime timeline's all over the place. It's not the exact timeline as the manga, so things could be very different. Are they trying to suggest that the human that he found is potentially like Hugo or Lucas or someone? Because that would just be an absolute, kick in the face to any Promised Neverland fan to find out that the intent of that scene was actually that, oh, you've been looking for Lucas and Hugo all this time. Well, here they are, coming in useful right at the end. Crazy to me if that's what it's meant to be. But again, I don't know. Unnamed, and of all the times they actually decide to show something in the past, it's this moment that is just, I think everyone has just been like, what a contrivance. And that's the thing, like, everyone seems to be in agreement on this episode of just the massive acceleration, way too quickly done Emma Norman twist, and how contrived is all the stuff with Vilk. Just baffling episode. And that's what we're doing. We're heading straight into the attack on Grace Field to try and save Phil and the others. Like, I assume we're basically going to jump straight over there next, with the plan being activated, so we can get straight down to business. And I'm guessing next episode will be the big one where they do whatever they're planning to do with Isabella, whether they go down the manga road or a different road. I guess Vincent is going to be our big potential, we don't actually know what's going on with him type thing. And we'll end, I guess, with revealing maybe what's under Grace Field, what the gateway to the other world actually is. But then, let's not forget Peter Rattray. They have to do something with Peter Rattray. Is he going to be resolved in the next episode? In that, there's a requirement, I think, here for almost backstory for both characters, but I don't think we're going to get it with only 2 episodes to go. Unless the plan for the ending here is literally just that they win, they go through the portal, they're in the human world, that's it. And literally just end on the note of, they're in the human world, they're going to be happy in the human world. No need to explore anything in any sort of detail. I guess that's somewhat on par with the manga ending, but obviously without a lot of the character development and depth and so on. Just the lack of, like, including the one in any of this, the promise, the backstory surrounding the promise, the nobles, Mujika's backstory, Luvis not being involved here at all. It's really, I think, suffering from a lack of depth. Even more minor characters like, say, Aishi. who actually has a really, really interesting backstory that plays with the themes that The Promised Neverland is exploring at this point. I don't get why you wouldn't include a character like that. But they're obviously speedrunning things to the end and they don't really care. And I think the main problem is that most people, I don't think, wouldn't have that big of a problem if they just went full on anime only. Season 2 just did its complete own thing. The problem is they're trying to walk this line of kind of being accurate and barely doing their own thing. And it just is the worst of both worlds. And it's just created this wildly fast-paced plot that decides to slow down for like some of the least consequential things possible and just expect you to go along with it. I really don't get a lot of this, of just how did this happen. I don't know if there's any hope in the future for us like getting a different anime studio or a new Promised Neverland anime project. I'd like to see it happen because I'd like to see a lot of this adapted properly. Everyone wants to see Goldie Pond in animation, Lubis, Yugo. Even some of this stuff towards the end, like I said, is so much better done in that the Norman Emma scene, even though I think some of the dialogue here is roughly the same as it is in the manga, it just doesn't hit as hard as it does in the manga because the manga, again, it takes place in a very different scene. It's not minutes after Norman has started his attack, it's quite a bit after he started the attack, and we're towards the end of the fight, and big things have happened, and we've delved into like demon, like between the noble clan politics, and the queen has kind of got her arc and stuff like that. So it takes place at a really interesting point, but none of that here. So yeah, we're gonna say Phil. That's gonna be cool. Isabella will, I suppose, get to be the star of the show, hopefully next week, and they can at least potentially make next week's episode just really cool from a we're kind of returning to where we started perspective, and that might work actually in the very compacted Promised Neverland anime to just like, yeah, we got away from the farm, but ultimately we have to go back. Does it work that it's really quick? No. I think this is another thing going against it in that I think that the biggest thing reflecting on all of this is what on earth were the first 5 episodes of this season? What were they trying to accomplish with that? Did they need to include the shelter at all with what they were doing? I don't think so. And reflecting on it, if they wanted to accomplish as much as they accomplished, why not just accelerate things even quicker? Why wasn't Sanju and Majika in like the first episode of the season, and then we're done with the bunker by episode 2, and it gives you more time towards the end as you get from place to place, because the whole like basically first half of this season, like before they went through the year time skip, is so uneventful outside of meeting Sanju and Majika. I don't get what they were going for here. So yeah, arguably one of the worst episodes of the season, even though it dealt with kind of important content. Really awkward episode, I think. Just lots of problems with this one. We'll see how they go about resolving things, but yeah, still not looking great. But you can't look away because you want to see just how badly they messed this up, or maybe they can save it, who knows. But yeah, they're my thoughts on the episode in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts were, but that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.